Hi everyone, thanks for joining. I'm Aaron Shimmons. This is Ricky Wynn, my speedy co-host over in Ireland. This is Trail Talk Live here every Friday night on Instagram, and then you can catch up on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, wherever you listen or wherever you watch. That's where you can catch up on the episode. This week, we're going to do our 30 minutes, and it's the post-spine special. It has a ring to it. What about that, Ricky?
Yeah. I don't know, 30 minutes on the spine. I don't think it's long enough, man. We're gonna go over a lot, I think, a lot of pros, a lot of cons, a lot of positives, a lot of negatives. So I'm looking forward to getting stuck into it. Although the spine is still not over, it's still not over. People are still out on the course. There's people still not finished. There's some people not even finished the Challenger North, let alone the spine. Like, so it is an insane race, and I can't wait to start talking about
Well, the spine is over for me.
it.
I'm back in London. I got back. When did I get back? I got back last night or yesterday. So I've managed to get a good wash, which was absolutely needed after living the van life and, the baby wipe showers, sleeping at the trailheads. For people joining, I'm Aaron. This is Ricky. This is the Spine Special. We're going to talk about the highs and lows of Spine Race Week, of which there were many. So, Ricky, let me kick it off. And I think it's important to acknowledge the performances at the front of the field before we get into some of the other highs and lows, because I think, there was a men's race, there was a women's race, but like the highlight of this race for me, I think, was the female participation, and also like just the community felt like way tilted towards female viewers of this race, which isn't the norm in running or trail running or anything like that.
Yeah, totally. And even going by, we'd say, some of the reels you put up on Instagram and a lot of the comments, there was so many comments from female supporters, from the guys wanting to know how the female race was going. There was really a lot of people getting behind that. But you could see as well, like the crack and the banter going on between the women up front. You had some great footage of some of the women, and they were singing songs and they were listening to music. It's going on in their ears, and it was deadly to see that. You know what I mean? So yeah, we were all right behind the women's race. And a fantastic race it was up at the top. So it was.
In trail and ultra running, we generally see at least a 70-30 split male female. And it honestly, I was saying to you yesterday, it felt like there was like 60-40 interest was on the women's race, if not more. And it wasn't because there wasn't a race going on both sides. The field, it was just good racing, and Lucy was right up there with the men, dicing it with the men. And it
Yeah.
was it was just great to see. It felt different to me. There was a different vibe there. I've been at, a lot of the biggest races in the world, and this had a different kind of dynamic, which I think was, I don't know if it was unique to England, but it's the first time I'd experienced it.
It's a unique race in that respect, as in it is one of those ultras where it doesn't really matter. It's so long, it's so hard, the conditions are brutal, that unfortunately I think it favors the women more than the men. This is where we find out like how tough women actually are. Like a lot of the time, like we saw John get passed by Lucy there at the end, and it was incredible to see that. That's John Kelly, like that's the king of the spine. Do you know what I mean? There's so much hype behind John, and this woman just cruises by him, and has a little shuffle on up ahead of him just to let him know that, yeah, I'm gone by you, and that was super cool to see, like super cool.
One of the fun things about that was getting to follow the race. So if anyone that doesn't know, I followed the race from about 30 miles in right to the finish, and kind of leapfrogging aid station or checkpoints and road crossings that were kind of ticking a few boxes. A good place for me to run, a good place for me to spectate and not get in the way of the runners as such, and just see them in the environment where there's maybe less people around, just out on the fells. And whenever, like, just seeing how the runners were deteriorating through the race was fascinating. Like John Kelly on day one, he just looked like John Kelly, not that talkative, a little bit of dry humor. There was life in his eyes. See, from day two-ish
Mm.
on, oh my God, like dead in the face, legs still moving. You would speak, like I would say to him, whenever I would go up to a runner or they would be approaching me, I would say, hi, I'm Aaron, independent media for Trail Talk. Can I ask you a question? And I would either be walking with them or hiking with them or running with them, or can I video you or take a video? And 99% of the time they would say yes. And the odd time maybe they'd be like, no, I feel shit. I don't want to be on
Yeah.
video. And that's good too. And then I would just maybe walk with them and we would have a chat, about whatever, maybe try and lift their spirits a little bit, take their mind off the shit, my legs are sore. But John Kelly, like, he's at least when his face was dead, he still managed a little bit of dry wit. So like about 200 miles in, and I said, do you mind if I run with you a little bit? And he goes, if you call this running, I think you're doing like 6 30-minute Ks. Your face looks dead, but your legs are moving. You're okay.
And I believe his shins were in bits at that stage as well. I think he was having outrageous trouble with his shins, I don't know, man. It's such a brutal race. It's you could see it. Like you could see it from day one of your footage to like the last day. Oh man, it's frightening. It's frightening. Like it's a race that scares the bejesus out of me. I'm telling you, man. It's like, oh man, I don't know how they do that. Like it's ridiculous. The Challenger South or North in itself is a massive race, 270 kilometers or something like that, and it's double that. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, one of the takeaways for me was I used to look at the spine and think that it takes certain physical characteristics, as all races do. But actually, with the spine, its gear is so important, and there's actually quite a high barrier for entry to do it successfully because you need the big, thick, waterproof gloves that are really expensive, and you need multiple copies or you need multiple copies of the gloves and the mittens and the jackets and the gilets and the waterproofs and the waterproof pants. It's not like your typical ultra trail where you might change your socks 1 or 2 times. You might have a change of shoes because you think it might freshen the feet up a little bit. This is the runners have to rely on the gear so much. And I think that actually makes the advantage for the pro runner even more because they're not even having to buy the kit. They're just, here's your kit, and I need more of this, I need more of that. And it's such an important factor.
I reckon you'd need less gear to go up Everest. You'd need less gear to go up Everest, man. They have rucksacks on them. Like they're carrying rucksacks that I brought to Australia in 2007 with my life on my backpack. You know what I mean? That's how much gear they're using. And like you said, it's all about looking after your hands and your feet. Your hands and your feet. I'd love to know how many changes of socks the average runner is having in the spine. It's got to be something ridiculous because if you're not looking after your feet, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, but there's not that many control points for them to get access to the bag and change their socks. So they probably might not do it more than, I don't know, once a day. So 4 changes of socks, maybe 4 or 5 changes for the front
Yeah.
of the field. But anyway, look, we are 10 minutes in. Let's move on to the next part of the spine special. This is Trail Talk Live, 30 minutes every Friday night. Catch up on Instagram, YouTube, or yeah, you can catch up on Instagram, but you can also catch up on YouTube, on Spotify, and on Apple. I'm Aaron Chimmons, and you are,
Ricky
there
Wayne.
you go, Ricky in Ireland, the fastest ultra runner in Ireland, hands down. Lucy Gossage won the race. Some history here. Last year, she was third in 106 hours. This year, she won the race in 87 hours, 21 hours faster, and also 5 hours faster than Claire Barnworth's time last year. To put it into perspective, because we know what Claire's capable of, and Claire was on the start list for this race, didn't chose not to participate, but so Lucy would have been dicing up there with Claire if she had participated. So it shows you the quality.
Yeah, and And the weather was worse. The weather was worse this year than it was last year. You know, it was definitely worse. There was way more snow, there was way more ice, and then there was rain to make it all complete mess. So, like to take 20 hours or close to 20 hours off that time is phenomenal running. Like, and like that, it wasn't just it like she was in the women's race, she was in the men's race. You know what I mean? She was in the overall race. Like, so she did unbelievably well. Seriously impressive. And I don't understand how, like, if you could take an hour or two off your time, you're doing well. But she took like 20 hours. 20 hours. That's insane. That's not even the same race.
Yeah, totally. And look, Lucy has a really interesting story. I don't really want to go into it on the show. She's got a few blog posts on lucygossage.com. It is like a bit of a shocker story from a personal life that happened last year, just after the race or during the race that she found out of this. So she really came back to this race to kind of reclaim it for herself, and she reclaimed it with both hands. And she also was raising money for Move Against Cancer, which is a charity that she is, I think she maybe even runs a charity, or she's high up in that charity. So we'll stick the information on that in the show notes so that people can donate. She's already raised a lot of money. But the last thing I want to say about Lucy is this is the first person that I've seen in real life that has that Courtney Walter type of spirit that we hear about, always smiling,
Yeah.
singing to herself as she's going up the street, click, click, click with the poles, and she's singing away to a musical. And she was always in great spirits. I said to her, this was about 210 miles into the race, and I'd previously spoke to John, and I said, your John's not far up ahead. You can kind of see him in the distance, but he's got a really sore shin. I think he's in a lot of pain. And Lucy's response was, just the one sore shin? Jesus, all of me is sore.
Yeah.
Just like great, great spirit.
But you said it to me. You said it to me, or you said something to me when we were over in France for UTMB, and you were saying that all the great runners, like they have that, they have that where no matter how bad the thing gets, they always manage to stay in a good mood. They always manage to crack a smile, crack a joke, and look on it as in look at the positives instead of the negatives. And that's the only way you can look at a race like the Spine. It's the only way, because the second you start thinking bad thoughts, negative thoughts, and thinking about quitting and thinking about stopping, it's over. So you have to do whatever you have to do. Yeah, it helps to be a little bit crazy. It definitely does. And I'm sure she's a little bit crazy, but that's what it is. It's positive people do positive things.
She's a little bit crazy, but she's also a top quality athlete, like 10-time Ironman champion.
Yeah.
She has serious pedigree and years of competing at the top level. Look, we can't spend all the time talking about Lucy.
Yeah.
We've got to move on. Give Kim a bit of airtime, and then I want to hear from you about some things that you've heard from runners. But Kim Collison coming off of 2 DNFs in 22 and 23, and he's he has such great pedigree, and he's great at this type of terrain and these British kind of fell races, not fell races, but on the fells, these ultra endurance type of efforts. He's just like a really good athlete at that. Also a La Sportiva athlete, and you know what I think of La Sportiva. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's good mountain stuff. What were we saying a minute ago about having great gear? So he had great gear. He knows the terrain. He's tried twice, and he's come back, and he's taken the win. And he had to fight for the win. Like he didn't break away until I would say after the 200 miles, he
Yeah.
started to get a bit of a gap, and he finished in what was it,
82.
82 hours
Yeah.
and 46, which is 10 hours slower than course record. But last year, the whole course was basically frozen. So will we ever see a 72-hour time again on the Spine course? It's going to maybe be weather dependent.
Yeah.
A couple of other things. I know I'm occupying the mic here, but I want to say a couple of things about Kim. He had that good kind of positive energy. Never did I see him that he wasn't smiling. Never did he say, no, I don't want to talk to you or whatever. You know, he maybe said, oh, last night was a bit rough, but sure, it's a new day. This,
Yeah.
like this, but positive. Like there was this negative, but this is positive and we're here now and we're through it. And he obviously had hard times. You don't go run 82 hours in a race and not experience ups and downs. So I think that was really interesting. And then the last thing on Kim that I want to say is I was waiting at an underpass for about 2 hours, just after Tan Hill. So again, it's probably, I forget what, it's before 200 mile mark anyway. And this woman arrived and she had a dog. I wouldn't say elderly, but certainly, somebody's mother. And I said, you know, what's your relationship to Kim? She said she was waiting with Kim. She said, oh, I'm his mum. So I was with Kim's mum for about an hour, just chatting and waiting, and she was like so excited, waiting on him to arrive. And uh, whenever he did arrive, the joy was just coming out, and she asked him for, could we take a selfie? You know, just get the selfie of her and her son at
Yeah.
this race. It was a lovely moment to capture and kind of see. But yeah, absolutely well deserved from Kim Collison. And I think I heard him say at the finish that he's done it now. So
Yeah.
take that take that one off the list.
But he had everyone behind him as well. Like he definitely would have had hard times. Of course he would have. But I mean, I think everybody was rooting for Kim this year. Everyone wanted to see him do well. His mum was out getting selfies with him. The positivity was coming from all angles. Everyone was rooting for him. So, like, that's always going to drive you on. It's always, I can imagine every aid session you got into, there was people cheering him on. There was people geeing him up. There was just everybody was getting right behind him. And he knew everyone was behind him. So that can carry you a long way, man. If you have one or two people behind you, that'll carry you. If you have nearly damn near a nation behind you, you'll fly. Yeah. So
Home field
absolutely.
advantage,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
which is also totally okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, you gotta look after your own. It'd be the very same if the race was here in Ireland. Wouldn't we be jumping all over the Irish lads in it? Of course we would. That's what you do. You support your own. You push them on. You want them to do well.
Yeah. And we're saying that not to the detriment of the other runners, because then when a John Kelly comes through, people are excited that an American is here, a fast American, someone that's spent time, has the FPP, respects the place. So
Yeah.
they show him love. They just don't show him home field
I,
advantage love.
I even made a cup of tea, especially for the Spines Day as well, for Ultra Demo and John Kelly. Hey.
Right. Okay. Well, look, over to you. I know you've got some other information about things that have happened at the race. So what have you got there?
Yeah, okay. So again, we've got some huge positives and a couple of negatives. Okay. I'm going to start out with two great positives that I want to give shout outs to two athletes. So Paul Brennan, a good friend of mine who I raced earlier on in 2024, he won the sprint. So the 46-mile race, he won it in 9 hours and 26 minutes. So absolutely stoked for Paul. He's a great lad. He's actually on a great trajectory at the minute. He's won a good few races last year. He's won the sprint this year, and he's got an entry into UTMB. So I'm very excited to see him go at UTMB. So delighted for Paul. So shout out to you, Paul. And then a fan favorite of the show, or let's say we're a big fan of Rebecca Harmon. So Rebecca Harmon finished second to Nikki Spinks, who won the Challenger North, but Rebecca was joint second. So again, I just wanted to give a big shout out to Rebecca because we're big fans of her here on the show. She's a friend of the Trail Talk, and absolutely delighted for her. So there, yeah,
Paul
exactly.
Brennan in the
Paul
chat.
Brennan, yeah,
Congrats,
nice one,
Paul.
Paul. Nice one, yeah, well done, mate. Smashed it, absolutely smashed it. But unfortunately, there was another two ladies that I know pretty well. Julie McNamee is one of them from Donegal, and then Irene Finnegan, and they didn't seem to have the best of times out there in the course. Julie had a bit of a problem after running 170 kilometers. I think she was 50 hours gone with no sleep. and she took a wrong turn and she ended out on the main road. And when she got back to the aid station, she was told that she couldn't go any further. And I just thought that wasn't very fair. They could have let her have a little bit of kip, a little bit of sleep, and she would have been good to go again. But she wasn't allowed to move on. And I mean, the Spine is one of them races where, okay, yeah, it's a race, I get it, but it's more a challenge, right? It's more that, like, you should want the athletes to finish the race, and I know hand on heart that lady Julie would have finished the race, so my heart goes out to Julie for not getting a chance, not given an opportunity to sleep for like 2 hours. You know yourself, you got 2 or 3 hours, Kip, you'd be fresh and you'd be ready to go again, and she didn't get that opportunity. She was struck off from the race, and I just thought that was bad form, so I just wanted to say, Julie, I'm very sorry that you didn't get to finish the race. And again, I'm absolutely stoked because Julie has got an entry into UTMB, so I want you to go and kick UTMB's ass this year.
And was just out of, like, give us some context without going too deep into it, was she riding cutoffs or anything like
No,
that?
like she was still well inside her cutoffs. What had happened was she had come to a cross and she'd missed a sign and she'd ended up down near the motorway. But like there was in the debrief before the race, you were given a phone number, and if you were got into trouble, you just rang this number, and you got a little bit of help from the support team. And they told her, if you just go back this way, you'll get back up to the aid station. But Julie just stayed on the main road and still got up to the aid station. There was no real advantage in it as such. It wasn't like she was cutting corners or anything. But you know yourself, it's like 50 hours, no sleep, disorientated, just took a wrong turn, and then wanted to get to that aid station, wanted to get a little bit of sleep, and then go again, And I think they could have just, let her go, let her finish it, because she would have finished it. I
I
know
mean,
rules are
if she
rules, but it's
wasn't if she was nowhere near cutoffs and she had time, then normally any other race that I've known of, you can retrace your steps to where you went off course and
yeah.
continue.
Yeah, exactly. She could have got back to that aid station. They could have said, okay, you did that wrong. You came on the main road, but all you have to do is go back to where you went wrong and go again. Like that could have easily been done. That could have easily been done.
Yeah, unfortunate. Well, yeah, I had highs and lows, but I don't think with 7 minutes left in the show I can go too far into the lows. But I guess I could summarize some of it. The highs for me the was watching the front of the race, seeing all of the other runners and the challenge runners, and just sharing some time with them, and that camaraderie and experiencing it, and also seeing the volunteers and mountain rescue were all very friendly for the most part. The course was actually, I thought I didn't know what to make of the course without being there, but now I've experienced the Pennine Way and most of its glory, and followed it the whole way to Scotland. And there's some fantastic running, like some really nice running, and not that steep Alps type of stuff, but loads of sort of 7 to 10% grades up and down. Just lovely stuff. And yeah, I wouldn't be signing up for the weather and the gear requirements, but it was a good experience in that respect. Also, we got a nice wintry start and then a spring finish, so it was kind of, the bit in the middle wasn't so pleasant, but like the wintry bit was amazing. The spring bit at the end was a wonderful couple of evenings of full moon and clear skies. And like I was out on the last night with the head torch up in the hills, and it was just unbelievable, big red sky. And I was just like in my element. I'm like,
Deadly.
I don't know if I'm even gonna go to the down to the finish, because I'm just having fun, me and about 300 sheep. But I did have some lows, and before I kind of touch on that, I do want to just give some context. I was there for Trail Talk as an independent race media. I wasn't there in any official capacity, but I also wouldn't have been there if I hadn't been given permission or the okay from the organizer. So I did contact them before and said, look, I would love to cover your race for Trail Talk. I've done this for UTMB. I've done this for Tour de Gent. I've worked with them, and normally they issue me a media pass so that the volunteers know that you are media and you're not just a guy with a phone or a guy with a camera. And and it's like that. They did come back. They just basically said, "Yeah, we'd love you to do that. That sounds great, but you can't access the control points." Okay, no problem. Sometimes you get really content in the control point, where people are, I spoke to like Volker Vormeister in the Tour de Glacier in Gresini during the in the Aosta Valley, and he was like 4 days in, sitting in second place, and I just had a little conversation with him when he was tying up the shoes about why he was using certain gear and how he was feeling, which was really, really cool. But so I didn't have that opportunity, but also there was so much trail that to cover it didn't really have much of an impact. But so I guess what I'm saying is I wasn't really given any guidelines other than don't go into the control points. And then after about a day, I started to get messages from the media team, sort of, and they weren't very to the point. They could have just said, "Don't use our logo on your videos," but it kind of went round in circles and circles and circles before they would actually just say, "Don't use the logo." And as soon as it was clear, I stopped using the logo, and that's why the content that I put out on Trail Talk started to be branded as Trail Talk. But yeah, I mean, I could go round in circles, but I think maybe there was not great communication from the media team to me. Maybe that's inexperience on their front from working with independent creators, but it certainly left a sour taste in my mouth about covering the race. But the race itself still rides above that because it's not about the organizers, it's about the runners,
Yeah,
it's about the route.
yeah.
You're not thinking about UTMB back office whenever you're doing the lap of Mont Blanc, are you?
No, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up having phone calls with the organizer and stuff, and I'm sure he didn't want to be doing that. I certainly didn't want to be doing it, and it was just a negative experience. But let me finish this on a high note because we're 2 minutes before the end of the show. And what I would like to say is that there was overwhelming support for the content that Trail Talk put out there. We had hundreds of thousands of views. And you know yourself, because you were seeing the notifications as well. I was having to, I couldn't consume any of the official spine content because I was either out on the course, which I was running 2 to 3 hours a day, then I was editing for a couple of hours, then I would have to spend an hour replying to comments from the day before.
Yeah.
Just people kind of asking questions about either, what shoes is John wearing? What kit is Lucy using? What weight is Lucy's pack? And all of these types of things that you want to answer them because they're the viewers and the fans of the show are just fans of trail running like we are. So the overwhelming high point, end point of this show and the spine, the line is drawn under it, is that we had overwhelming reach with hundreds of thousands of views and great support from the people that matter, which is the fans of the sport and the runners that were out there. And I also want to say thank you to Mountain Rescue and the volunteers that I had a great experience with. Um, and, we'll maybe leave it at that and keep it classy.
Yeah, and I think a high point for me was keeping up to date with your reels, with your content. I thought it was great, man. It was a great way of keeping up to date with the race because sometimes, yeah, as much as it is good to dot watch and spend the whole weekend or the whole week watching little dots go thing, it's a lot better to see good content. And you had some banging content. Really, really impressed with that. Also, one more guy I got to give a shout out to, and that's Brian Hutchinson, who finished the spine in 100 and just under 126 hours. Brian is Irish, lives over in Chamonix. He's a legend. I had a barbecue in his house when I was training for TDS, so absolutely stoked for him as well. And yeah, look, no matter what happens with race organizers, directors, stuff like that, negative stuff like that, it's always got to be about the runner, and we're here to support the runner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're runners. That's what we do. This is the sport we love, and we want to support everyone that's out there trying, doing, and killing it.
Well said. On that note, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Come back next Friday. We've got some mega interesting announcement to come next week. We also have this going out on Spotify, on YouTube, on the podcast platforms tomorrow morning. So catch up there. Check out Ricky Win 10 on Instagram, and he will motivate your runs. And stay tuned for more, and have a great weekend, and catch you later.